It takes this much money to run paid ads for listing agreements, okay, seller leads. And it takes less than half of that to run paid ads for buyer leads. And the reason a lot of real estate coaches understand this, or agents in general understand this, is because if you think about someone that's ready to sell their house, they probably have already been through the process of buying their first house. That's why they have a house to sell in the first place, okay? And usually when that happens, a realtor helped them through that transaction, right? So they already have a trusted realtor. So to try to convince someone that you're a better realtor than the realtor they already know is very, very hard and takes a lot more money to do. That's why listing agreements or trying to run paid ads for seller leads is just a lot harder and a lot more expensive. There's a lot more convincing to do, okay? I think you get the idea. And when you run paid ads for buyers, right, there's a good chance that that person or that lead that you might generate might be a first-time buyer, right? So much easier because they've never worked with an actual realtor before. So therefore, it takes a whole lot less of an investment to successfully generate a buyer lead. That's why a lot of real estate coaches try to advocate, go ahead and focus your digital marketing goal on generating buyer leads because they're easier to generate and just easier to convince, especially if that person has never even worked with a realtor to begin with, right? But in this video, we're going to talk about what's even easier than generating a buyer lead, and that's generating a renter lead, right? That's what this channel is all about. We specialize in apartment locating inside of this YouTube channel, but the reason we do that is because of all of the advantages that come along with focusing your business efforts in real estate inside of the multifamily apartment locating niche. Before apartment locating, it's never really been understood that you can generate, a free real estate lead that's eventually going to buy a house, that's eventually going to sell a house in their lifetime, right? But it is possible with the apartment locating model because the way you generate an apartment renter lead can actually be organic and totally free. Therefore, you don't actually need paid advertisements to generate a renter lead. And if you look at sort of like the natural process of someone selling their house, right? What happened at first? That person probably rented an apartment and saved up a bunch of money, advanced in their career until they could afford a down payment and get qualified for a mortgage so they could buy their first house, right? So first, that person was a renter. They rented an apartment. Second, they bought their first house as a first-time buyer. And then third, they eventually sold the first home they bought, maybe, because they're trying to buy a second house, right? So the natural life cycle of someone even having a house to sell in the first place is them first renting an apartment, buying their first house, selling that first house to buy the second house. Okay, that's sort of the process. So if you position yourself as a real estate agent in the first life cycle stage that your own clientele, are living through, then you can generate leads basically for free. But even if you run paid ads and you're really trying to scale up your marketing effort to really generate the most leads possible, renter leads with paid ads, it's still a fraction as far as lead gen cost compared to generating a buyer's lead, and an even smaller fraction compared to generating a seller lead. So the point I'm trying to make here is that everyone actually starts their life first inside of an apartment rental before they buy their first house or sell that house way down the line. So if you build a relationship with these people and get organized, not only on your calendar the way we teach booking Zoom calls, but if you get organized on a CRM and track every single lead you generate from stage one when they need to rent an apartment, it's really, really easy to set up automatic drip campaigns, whether they're text or email or both the way we teach, and where you're just nurturing that relationship, asking them towards their lease end if they need your help renting another apartment or if they're finally ready to buy a house, okay? All of this stuff happens automatically in the back end if you set it up properly. That's why digital marketing is very, very powerful for real estate agents, right? So the first thing you need to understand is that you should probably position yourself inside of the first stage that your real estate agent clientele will be living through, which is apartment rentals. That's the first thing you should do, right? You get that done by being a locator first. And then the second thing you need to do is make sure your back-end systems and digital marketing skills are sharp and are actually executed and structured in the correct way possible. That way, as you're working or starting as an apartment locator, right, which is known to generate way more of a pipeline than just being a realtor from the start, right? Apartment locators generate 10x the amount of leads because as you can probably imagine, there are tons of people in the market to rent apartments because not everyone has 2 years of solid tax returns in the same industry, over a 640 credit score, and $30,000 to $50,000 down payment. Right? So most of America, these people are renting apartments. So position yourself first as a locator, all right? Build a relationship, get an unfair advantage over other realtors that are putting advertisement money into just getting listing agreements right away or a buyer's lead right away. Instead, be a locator, generate 10x the amount of leads either for free or a fraction of the cost, and then have your systems nurture a relationship with your clientele, because they're eventually going to evolve and want to buy a house and then want to sell the house later. That's why apartment locating is awesome, but it only becomes awesome if you have guidance and back-end systems and digital marketing skills that make sense. Okay, I know a lot of apartment locators that start in the business and they like it because it's a really, really easy, relatively easy way for them to hit $10,000 a month or more, but they're not really organized, they're not working on a calendar, they're not executing Zoom calls or Google Meet calls, right? So their ghosting rate's really high. They're not really taking advantage of all the leads that they're generating as a locator and communicating with them over a year or two and making them buyers leads, right? So there's a lot of locators and agents in this business model that they're happy they're doing 6 figures as apartment locators by being, in this little known niche, but they're wasting a lot of leads. They're really, really wasting a lot of potential and leaving money on the table because they're not organized with back-end systems and they're not doing the business efficiently with a MacBook laptop from the comfort of their home, booking calls on their Calendly. All right, guys, so if you want to learn how to take the most advantage of this business and have an unfair advantage, you're already on your way if you've ever worked as a locator, because you're starting at stage 1, getting an unfair advantage. Your lead gen's cheaper. These people will eventually become home buyers anyways. So if you're a locator or you're thinking about starting as a locator, you're already at an unfair advantage. But if you want even more of an unfair advantage over other realtors, then reach out to my team, because we can really hold your hand and help you set up back-end systems that work. And we can also show you A to Z every single step of this business. That's all we do. We've trained more locators as a company than any entity, company, brokerage firm in the world. So if you're interested in us coaching you on a 90-day live coaching commitment with a triple guarantee, then click the button below, check out the business breakdown and how my team can connect with you to see if this is even a good fit, and then book your call on our calendar and let's have a conversation on if we can truly add value in your real estate career. I hope this video was helpful. Generate renter leads. They're either free or a fraction of buyer or seller leads. Thank you very much. Hope this was helpful. Bye-bye.